Hi, my name is Jay Ryan. If you need any help or have any questions, just hey you type of stuff and let me know. But thanks for joining us for our 23rd annual preparatory to our 23rd annual cardboard boat regatta. Have we had school 23 times? Probably not. That's why I stumbled there. So boat building school is going to give you the exposure to all of this type of structure that you're going to see, how to make it, how to think it through, how to build it. It's a great set of skill sets that all of us get to go through. Last year there was a group that was really very intelligent and they overthought it, and as soon as they got in the water they went upside down. And it's just that kind of stuff that you want to think about and make it work. And so at any rate, all of this, by the way, benefits the River Legacy Foundation and the Science Center. Has everybody been to the Science Center or to the park? Who's been to the park? Okay, that's what this event supports, is the park and the Science Center, which runs classes all year long. There's some information in the back about that. And so all of that's going to be good benefit from this, and it'll generate some nice cash for the park, and that's why we're here. So when you checked in out there, you got all kinds of different packets of information. Critical, of course, is the entry form. You should fill that out. Also, you have an agenda of what we're doing. There's also a co-ed volleyball tug-of-war entry form if you have a team-type function that's coming. Another form, there's a form that we want you to fill out at the end that says that Gary Daly's humor is not really good, or whatever your thoughts may be. Oh, I'm sorry, Gary, I thought you were out of the room. So at any rate, we do want to get your input so that we can improve the school. And then the manual of how to build a cardboard boat is here, and this is a lot of information. We're going to go over a bunch of it today, and so I encourage you to have a copy of that. And then for those institutions or groups that are eligible, there is a way of getting free cardboard, and this is the location and the details on how to get cardboard to be able to build your boat. I made reference to the team challenge. There is a team challenge. Used to be named a corporate challenge, but we wanted to make it so that churches or schools or clubs, groups like that could do a team challenge, and that relates to volleyball that starts at 9 o'clock on the 28th of April. That starts at 9 o'clock, and that competition ends, it's volleyball first and then tug of war, and then all of those people also typically have boats in the competition. And then we end up with a team challenge champion. We also have a high school challenge type of thing where high schools that come in and have various boats, and they're ranked to have a winning school in that challenge. And then a fun thing that we did last year for the first time, and it was relatively chaotic. A lot of these boats, by the time you go through the cycle in one of these boats, you will probably float it in the Hurricane Harbor wave pool 3 or 4 times. And you have an option. 15 boats have the option at the end of the day to donate $20 and be in the wave pool with the waves on to basically brave the waves. And let's say, I don't know that anybody survived that last year. It's another way of throwing your boat away, is what it is. But, and by the way, after tonight, when we get down to what, 27, 28 degrees, after tonight, we're working on warming up the water in the park. Tonight's going to reach its low, and then I love warm water. I don't like cold water, so you won't see me out there, but I will bravely announce all of you for being in the cold water. So anyway, brave the wave. If you want to brave the wave, it costs $20, but it's an easy way of throwing your boat away. Anyway, and then we'll have plenty of concessions there, food and beverage. Please don't bring food and beverage into the park when you come. We'll have all kinds of good stuff for you to eat. So boat check-in is at 8:30 that morning. You're welcome to show up early so that you can be there. And our youth races start at like 10 o'clock. And I will be there with my handheld microphone, and I'll be going around. So if any of the teams have cheers or music or routines, or I'll interview each of you so that over the PA, so that everybody can hear what school you're from, what organization you're from. We try to stay away from political and religious topics when we do this, but nonetheless, we have fun. It's fun to rile up the kids and get us all going. And then you can enjoy unlimited Hurricane Harbor tornado rides, and other sections of the park are also open during the day. So if you have any open time, other parts of the park are indeed open. We want to thank our sponsors for this year. It's Westlake Harbor and Ace Harbor, Westlake Arlington Hardware, and Bates Container, and Randall Mill Pharmacy, and Star Telegram. One of the next pictures coming up is the winning boat, if you want to call it that. It was by Bates, and it was an 18-wheeler, and it was just amazing. We thought that we didn't know what it was going to be when they decided to actually race the boat, but they ended up cutting the sides of the 18-wheeler out, and the trailer itself was the boat. So it was really quite fantastic. Once again, as you'll read from the rules, it's all made out of cardboard. No metal, no duct tape. Even though we're in Texas, duct tape is not allowed. And so all of that is that artistry is just amazing. It's a fun day. So as we churn along here, we've got a series of presenters. The first presenter is Jeff Williams. I'll let him come up in a moment, and he's going to talk about planning for the construction and the engineering type of things. And then you're going to actually see some hands-on stuff with Gary and Bob. They're going to actually put together some things, and you'll be able to see how they assemble some of these pieces of cardboard and some of the thought processes that go through that. And so they have a couple of different sessions, and then Sue Wilhide will talk about design ideas. Darla Reynolds will be here, and she'll talk about the mini boat regatta. You see our little boats over here. That's kind of Boy Scout level of stuff where they race in a gutter that's filled with water, and there's 2 classes of that this year. So she'll talk about that, and then we'll do a wrap-up. And we fully intend to be done at or before noontime. So one other thing is going on while we're doing this, so you need to pay attention. If you don't pay attention, you can watch this. It's being recorded right now, and it'll be posted on Channel 16 in Arlington, or it will be posted on YouTube so that you can watch. You can watch last year's on YouTube as well, but this year's will be up soon on YouTube, the City of Arlington channel, and you can link to that from the River Legacy site. You can also check out River Legacy on Facebook, and it's facebook.com, River Legacy Parks, and you can see all of that type of information. The other thing that's going to go on is that in between sessions, assuming you're paying attention, I have some stuff to give away. I'll ask a question, and if the answer is posed back to me correctly or not, we'll have fun, and I have some stuff to give away, some gift cards, some paint sticks, some t-shirts, a couple of towels, stuff like that. So anyway, so pay attention, and we are ready to go. Jeff, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we have Jeff Williams coming up, and get your minds ready to wrap around how to build a boat and what makes sense about boat building. Jeff, take it away.
Well, guys and ladies, I love building boats, and I bet you do too, or you're ready to explore it anyway. But boat building can be a lot of fun, and cardboard boat building is even more challenging because of the materials that you're using. And yes, cardboard can float. If y'all been to any of the regattas, you'll see that it can float. But if not done properly, it also can sink very well. And in fact, Gary and Bob are going to try to help keep you from sinking unless you want to. Because, in fact, there is an award called the Titanic Award for sinkings. And we have had some great choreographed sinkings in which the team actually very purposely sunk their boat to win the Titanic Award. There's also the Rah-Rah Award, and you want to be sure and get your friends and family out to watch you with your boat. If you're going to spend this time on your boat, you don't want to be there alone. And I heard some pretty neat ideas. One is that as they were building their boat between now and April 28th, when we have our cardboard boat regatta, they would gather emails of all their friends that said they were interested in coming, and they would blast them with emails as they were building their boat and show them pictures as it was going along, and then at the end, of course, reminding them to come out to Hurricane Harbor on Saturday. And y'all, it is fun. Looking at all of the different boats there, it's very entertaining to watch them when they actually get in the water, and just as equally entertaining and to walk around and see these different kinds of boats with all different kinds of themes. Very interesting, this last week, the Six Flags president, in fact, Six Flags hosts us in Hurricane Harbor, he was commenting that these boats are works of art. You know, it's amazing the different works of art you will see, all the way from missiles to trucks, there to cartoon characters that have been made, all the way to baseball bats. We even had the Rangers one year to do a baseball bat, which was very fitting for their organization. We've also had a dentist that did a tube of toothpaste. You know, what is it that you want to do? You know, y'all need to be thinking there, and that's the first step in engineering. Now, I know that most of y'all think, well, engineers aren't very creative. Well, actually, that's a very important part of engineering, is to vision and start thinking about what do you want your boat to look like? What is that theme? What would be fun to do? And then, of course, you don't want to have fun alone. Who are the team members that you want to include to help you both build the boat and to actually row the boat and to help you transport the boat and to gather people up to come to the cardboard boat regatta? You know, you don't want to just have a couple of people working on it. I mean, gather whole teams up. You know, most of the time you will see anywhere from 7 to 8 to 25 or 30 people that are involved in your boat building. And you can use the help, but it also, again, it makes it so much more fun if you involve a lot of different people. Now, after you think of your theme, of what you want your boat to be there. And of course, we had one time, we had a Catholic church to use the nun theme there in the mix. I'm throwing some deals out. Superheroes are very popular there in the mix. And then also, I got a kick out of one that some teenage girls put "No Boys Allowed" on their boat, and that was the name of their boat. But you also need to think about, what division do I want to enter? And Gary and Bob are going to talk about these different divisions, but real quickly, you know, do you want to do a mechanical boat or non-mechanical boat? Do you want to have a guppy that's a 1 or 2 man boat? Do you want to do a dolphin that is a 3 to 5 man boat? Or a whale, 6 plus there of people in it? How big do you want your boat? Who do you want to have in it? Then you need to find a place where you can build this boat. And that's very important, to have a place to build a boat. And of course, you're going to be putting the cardboard together. You also are going to have to paint it. Sometimes it's not the same place that you put it together that you're going to paint it. But you do need to think about that. And then you also need to think about, how am I going to get it out of this place that I'm assembling it? Because I think y'all have heard me say before, if you ever heard this, that my first year, I found a vacant office building, but it happened to be on an upper floor, and I had a tough time getting that boat down the stairwell there in the mix, and it really messed me up because I didn't think about, oh, how do I get it out of here? And then once you have built your boat, there too, take care of it. You know, treat it well, because any little nick in your boat could mean disaster later. And then the other thing that I always like to encourage is practice rowing. You know, you need to know how to navigate a boat. Go get a canoe or kayak, whatever's close to the shape of your boat, and go practice. Because many times we see people with great boats but yet they do not know how to steer and navigate that boat, go practice. The only thing else I would say is that I don't like to practice in my nice cardboard boat in case something happens there in it. Generally, I like to practice in a canoe. And I will tell you too, in my early years there, I'll never forget, we got our boat together and we wanted to have a boat that barely sit in the water with the weight of us. It was a two-man boat. We were trying to make it as fast as possible. And then we also did not have it very wide. Our stability was not real good in it. And anyway, we made it so fast down that pond, but then when we started turning, we rolled that boat. And we were a few weeks away from the competition, so we had to scramble to get another boat ready for the competition because we did not have that boat sitting down enough in the water so that our center of gravity was there, and we didn't have it wide enough so we had more stability there in it, because you don't want any of that to happen to you. Now, I'm going to show you a few boats, and just I think that's probably one of the best illustrations here that we can do is for you to actually see some boats, and we'll discuss them a little bit, and then I'll show you some basic engineering calculations there. Christy? Okay, we mentioned this was one of the winter boats. However, it wasn't necessarily a winter because it was so fast, was it? You know why that it wasn't so fast? Look at the front there. It really doesn't even have a prow that will pierce the water. You'll know what I'm talking about? The front of the boat is a bow, and it has a bow. It has a front, but there isn't anything that's really piercing that water as a bow that is going to spread that water out. So they are pushing against that water with a very good front. In addition to that, look at right here. Is that really the proper way to row? Yeah, no, y'all know that. That's again practicing that rowing. And then also, this guy here is even having trouble getting down. There is oar in the water. This is another common mistake that we see. You want to have high sides so you can brave the waves, the waves coming in. Well, you also, depending on who's rowing in it, you need to be sure that you can get your oar down in the water. Isn't that terrible? We've seen in our youth division many times the kids will be too small to be able to get over the wall of the boat to even get the oar in. Another thing to think about, there's you go. But look at the creativity of this particular one. This is a work of art, and even the size of it is remarkable, what they did here with this particular boat and making it look like an 18-wheeler. Okay, this particular boat here on the left is a pretty popular design here with it, but also look how it's tilting there. I really do question their stability because of the width of that boat there in the mix. But they have a great prow that is piercing the same way here. However, though, look at the size of this particular young man there. He's probably not going to get a whole lot of that oar in the water, so he's not going to have as much pushing power because of how tall that boat is. And then, of course, look at the paint job. Man, they had spent a lot of time in the paint. Now, evidently, when they were moving their boat, or perhaps in a previous race, they had a problem here and they had to patch it. Be sure and remember to bring patching materials, because you may have hopefully you will have multiple heats in races, and you can have some damage, and that damage can occur just by bumping into something else or you step the wrong way. Be sure and have patching material with you. Now, look at the captain. He's got his hat on, doesn't he? No doubt who the captain is there in the mix. Neat deal. Okay, we don't care whether you put in 2 hours or 2 months, into your boat. It's fun for everybody to come out. This particular young man, he wanted to participate. I don't think there was probably a whole lot of time put into this boat, but it's amazing how much fun you can have here. Now, he also did not realize that he was going to be a star today of what not to do here on a boat, because frankly, in this particular situation, he has no piercing capability, does he? In addition to that, I will say the one thing he does have his weight back in the back so that his bow is up. Again, he really doesn't have a prow because there's no piercing going on in it. And it was a very quick paint job. And he's still afloat though, y'all. You know, he's done a few things right because he's still afloat. Well, this does happen. You know, and then it's kind of interesting because this particular sinking right here occurred because all of these big old boys were all on one side of that boat and they all dug in. And I'll never forget when this one went over because I thought, wow, that is a big old boat to turn over there in the mix. You've got to position your rowers correctly in the boat there to make sure. And then you also have got to, again, work out your rowing because if your boat is not very stable, if all of you dig in one side, especially with the rowing power of some big old boys like this, you can drag your boat right into the water, which is what happened here on this one. All right, here is a great boat, the No Boys Allowed boat. Man, look at that. You know, they've got, look how it's setting up here. You know, they're not that deep down in the water back here. They've got enough width to be stable. They also had a theme that really related to them. No boys allowed. You know, that fit them. And this boat cut the water very well. It had enough width and so forth to be stable. And then we look over here. What is about to happen? In just a few minutes, the yellow boat team members were in because they lack that stability here in it because you do have to turn. You know, once you get into the main pool, you do have to turn. And then you've got a one-man boat here. Look at how they are sitting in the boat too. That's a pretty common way to sit with your knees down on it because then you're not puncturing. You're also up to where you can row. So that is a great way, and that's a very common way for people to be sitting in the boat there because it's not as destructive on the bottom, and then you are ready to row. Okay? Well, we've got a whale boat right here, and again, we've got some strong guys here rowing in this particular boat. Here we have, again, a prow, and it is cutting. It's not piercing, but it is a very stable boat. And it is supporting a lot of weight. Can you believe that? They're in cardboard and they're supporting all of that weight. It can happen. You know, if you do the things right, you actually can support 10 or more guys in a cardboard boat there. Okay, let's jump into a little engineering. Now, don't go to sleep on me, okay? Now that I said engineering, don't go to sleep on me. But you do need to think about here of what type of hull, the bottom of the boat there that you want to adopt. Now, these both are pretty common, as is this. A is a little harder because you've got to wrap the edges. And then B, you may think, well, why would I do that? Well, actually, and you'll see this with Bob and Gary, a lot of times the hulls are rectangular, but they make up for that rectangular bottom by having a good prow on the end to cut that water and move through it there in the mix. And then probably the least effective here I think have been D and E because of the fact the stability is harder to attain here and you have to have wider because of the rounded edges. It's also harder to construct. And then F, and I had one of these, they just don't, they are very cumbersome to turn there in a non-mechanical boat. There it works very well there in mechanical where you got a little more power, but when you're trying to row, many times the boats that are going to beat you are going to have these other hulls here that again are more stable for you. Well, we saw some actually that had this type of front. And think about when you have a flat front and you're trying to cut through the water, you're not going to be cutting. You're just going to be moving water. And that's why at the front of your boat, if it's rectangular, you're going to have trouble. And the old submarine nose. Well, we see that. You know why it's called submarine? Because when you start paddling, yeah, it just goes right on down. You know, there in the mix. V has worked out pretty well there on lots of boats. And of course, there when you start getting that sloped prow there and it starts cutting the water, then you're really getting there. And here's some variations on that. But having a good prow that will cut the water for you as you come through is invaluable in your boat design. Okay, do y'all know how much water weighs? How many pounds per cubic foot water weigh? 62. Here we go. Do you have it? Well, I don't know kilograms, but it's, James, let's hear it, man. 62.2. Yeah, there you go. James Gilmartin, one of our pro builders right here, he knows that figure. Approximately 62 pounds per cubic foot. In other words, when you have a cubic foot, you're going to, there of water, it weighs 62.4 pounds. So, if you were to have, this is really good, y'all. I have built what is not a masterpiece. It is a 1 cubic foot cardboard box. But you know what I've done? I've violated the rules right off the bat. And man, when I walked in with this, Gary and Bob were all over me because, what kind of tape do I have right here? Duct tape. No duct tape is allowed here on this. It's really not that good anyway, as you'll see, because we use paper tape, you know, there to hold it together, and the pros here will share that with you. But I do have the correct dimensions, 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. Okay, so if I had this filled with water, it would weigh 62.4 pounds, but it also, how much does my boat weigh? You thought about this? You know, this is very light, but once you start building a cardboard boat, it's going to have some weight on it. So be sure and remember that you've got the weight of your boat and the weight of your team members in there. But I'm going to give you a pretty good illustration right here. You know, of course, this hardly weighs anything, doesn't it? You know, I mean, you know, this cardboard is pretty negligible weight because it's so small. So you can see it barely sits down in the water. Now, if you divided 60 pounds, we'll just round it instead of 62, and you divided that by 12, that gives you 5 pounds. So you know why I divided it by 12? I got it to inches. So theoretically, every 5 pounds of weight, then my boat ought to sit down in the water 1 inch. Wow, it's magic. No, it's not. It's engineering calculations. Spend some time to do some calculations. And of course, you need to know the weight of your team members when you're building your boat. You've got to get a commitment from them, or you're going to have, if you have to replace them, you've got to get some people that are about the same size to go into your boat. Now, that's real critical. And then, of course, we'll show you another. Let's add another 5, and we should go down another inches. So 10 pounds ought to be sitting, my boat ought to be sitting in the there about 2 inches. And that's basically what I've got right here with both of these being down 10 inches. Now, if I were to put Gary Daly in the front of this boat, you know, a 200-pound man, give or take 50, and I put, one of these young men here in the back, what would happen? I got a problem, don't I? That boat is sitting down that water. But what if I put Mr. Daly back here in the back, and then I put another young man or young lady in front? Wow, I got something going on there, don't I? Because then my prow's sitting up, ready to go, and then in addition to that, I want to make sure that I've got a big enough boat so that when Mr. Daly gets in there, that I'm not sitting down in the water a foot or 2 foot. Because then I got a problem too, because you don't want to have too much in there. But that calculation on how far your boat is going to sit in the water and how big you need to make your boat is critical. And then as Gary and Bob will talk about is that you need to draw up a blueprint. And we've got some examples here today that they're going to show you that will give you some approximate dimensions. But let's go through here. Here is a great example of a boat. Here's a great example of a boat here that this would be a guppy boat, 24 inches wide. You know, we've got a 12-inch lip on it there, 6 foot long. And then look at what we have here in the way of a prow there also. Great example there of some approximate dimensions that you would end up with. Now, I mentioned that center of gravity that's real critical, because if you set up too high and then you have too narrow a boat, you can have a problem in this center of gravity to where you can actually fall over, and you don't have any stability, and then when you first get started, you know, you'll have a problem. So make sure that you do set in the water enough to where you will be stable and you have a wide enough boat. Okay, and here is, again, an example of a blue line or a plan there in actual dimensions. And then as they will show you, these are all fold lines or cut lines there, and they'll tell you about the difference of here you're taking your pieces of cardboard there to do it. But look at these dimensions. Your overall length is 13 feet. There you've got 18 inches here across there in the mix. And then let's see some others there that we have. Okay, dolphin, when you start getting bigger, you know, you start coming in here with a 2'6" across, because you've got more people in the boat itself and you've got to accommodate that. And then that overall 13-foot dimension. Okay, and then, of course, as we mentioned, to summarize what I'm trying to share with you is that you've got to do your visioning, do your planning, get your team members, get your place, get your theme, and then from there, you're ready to start in on work, which is what Gary and Bob are about to talk about. And then someday, maybe you can become a pro like this man right here. Seriously, Gary Daly, y'all, has been an incredible boatsman here, in both an engineer in building the boat and participating, and he has built all size boats for kids and adults alike, both mechanical and non-mechanical. And look at him here, man. He's a pro rower right there in the mix. Look at that. Look at his oars. Because he is in the guppy division here, his boat's not that wide, so it worked perfect for him to have kayak oars to get going there. Look at him. Gosh, unbelievable, unbelievable. But y'all, I wish the best for you. It's a fun, you're about to embark on a fun group building activity. Be sure and get your friends there. And then, y'all, I just got to say one thing. A lady that's been behind the scenes for so many years that helps put all this together here is Christy Payne. And Christy, thank you, because once again, and we always forget you there, because we take you for granted because you're so good and you make it happen. And thanks once again. And weren't these images great? You know, she got these images together there that really kind of show you what it's about. Thank you, Christy. All right, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's give Jeff Williams a hand. All right, and yes, Christy does float our boat, as they say. All right, I have a premier lever lock that we have to give away to the person who can answer. Now, don't yell it out. I want you to raise your hand so that you can answer. Who can answer who our sponsors are this year? All right, sir.
River Legacy and...
Now, River Legacy is who benefits. That's who benefits from it. But who are our sponsors? Let's go here. Yes.
Okay. Westlake's Arlington Hardware.
Yes, one.
Of them. The Bait Store.
Bates Container. Very good. Just one more, and I'll give it to you. If you're not feeling well and you need some medications, Randall Mill Pharmacy. Very good. Very good. They're our next speaker. All right, and I have a couple other questions. Oh, by the way, one of the other sponsors, in-kind sponsors, is our friends at Hurricane Harbor. Okay, so the next question, and I've already given you the answer to this, where is the 23rd regatta going to be held? Back there in the blue check. Yes. At Hurricane Harbor. All right, we have a t-shirt for you. Extra large. Hurricane Harbor, extra large, so it fits somebody else. Very good. All right, cardboard boats. This is multiple choice. Cardboard boats can float or sink or all of the above? Yes, sir. All of the above. Very good. Oh, I don't want to give you that. I want to give you this. This is dangerous. You got to be careful with that one. All right. Somebody describe what the Titanic Award is. Yes, sir.
When the best sinking boat sinks and
Impresses the judges. This is very good. Very good. I like that. All right. How many people can ride in a dolphin? And by the way, do you spell dolphin with a P or an F? All right, let's go there with the funny hat. Yeah. How many people ride? 3 to 5. Perfect. Is it a P or an F? A P. Very good. All right, you got a towel. All right, and this one, is Jeff still in the room or did he leave? I think he's left already. This one is engineers are dull or creative or all of the above. Yes, sir. Well, it's really all of the above, but he's left the room, so we'll leave it as being creative. All right, and I've got one last one, and I've run out of questions, so I'm just going to raise your hand real quick. All right, there you go. That was very good. You said, ooh, when you raised your hand. All right, our next session is going to go to Random Mill Pharmacy team of Bob Sherwood and Gary Daly. And they're going to show you how to build. And Gary brought these special chopsticks to show you how to build those. And these are your paint sticks. So anyway, Gary Daly and Bob Sherwood. Turn your mic on and we're good to go.
All right, here we go. Everybody hear me all right? Jeff gave you a nice overview on how to design your boat. So you got a pretty good idea how to design it now. Jeff. Now we got to get down to thinking about building this thing. Before we build it, like Jeff said, you got to have a good place to build it. Nice big open area. You want to have your floor clean because when you lay your cardboard down to work on it, little pebbles or rocks or debris can punch a hole in your cardboard and that can be a leak later. So you got to be real careful with that. You can see on the table here we've got a bunch of materials that can be used to build a boat. And I've got some legal materials and some illegal materials. First of all, the materials, obviously we're going to have cardboard. I've got a couple of different kind of cardboards up here. You can come look at them later. Our friends at Westlake Arlington Hardware will have available this year sheets of cardboard that are 4 foot by 8 foot, 4 foot wide, 8 foot long, and they'll have single ply sheets of cardboard and double ply, which is a little thicker, a little heavier for your bigger boats. I think the pricing on those, I think it's like $5.99 for the single ply sheets and $7.99 for the double ply. That's within $1 or so. But Westlake Arlington Hardware always does a great job of having all our materials, most importantly the cardboard. Okay, in addition to cardboard, material-wise, you're going to need glue. We usually just use a Elmer's wood glue, or there's other brands. Most boats, you're going to need at least a gallon of glue like this. We always buy some smaller containers for actually applying the glue, and we'll show you how to do that later. In addition to glue, once the boat's all assembled together, we use a variety of tapes to seal up our seams. Now, as Jay and Jeff mentioned earlier, duct tape, not a legal material. Can't use any kind of plastic tape. Plastic packing tape, same thing. That one's a no-no. But you can use masking tape. I've used this on boats. It works fine, works good. A self-adhesive paper packing tape works good on seams. This one here is my favorite. This is just an old-fashioned mailing, wettable paper tape, and we'll show you how to use this later. It's water-activated adhesive on here. We just dunk it in water, and it sticks to the cardboard great and seals up the seams. Once we've got the seams taped, some of the seams you can come back, you're going to want to caulk them, and we'll show you some examples of that too. There's a lot of different kinds of caulks. 100% silicone caulk works pretty good. It's expensive. The downside is it's expensive, takes a long time to dry, and it stinks. You can't really paint on it very well. I like to use this. It's a blend of, it's an acrylic, latex, and silicone combination, and it's a lot cheaper, dries faster, doesn't stink, and paints nice. I like this one right here. You can look at that later on here. Once we've got all the seams caulked up, you're going to want to waterproof your boat. What we normally do is we use a polyurethane varnish to waterproof our boats. There's two kinds you can buy. There's a water-based polyurethane and an oil-based. Advantages, disadvantages. The water-based, easier cleanup, dries faster. Downside, it's a little more expensive. The oil-based polyurethane really waterproofs your boat better than the water-based. Did I say oil-based? I'm sorry. The oil-based polyurethane waterproofs your boat better than the water-based. And the downside to it is it takes longer to dry. It's kind of like the silicone caulk stinks up the garage or whatever you're doing, but it really waterproofs your boat better. Now those are just clear. So then once you've got that finish on there, if you want to paint your boat, which most everybody does, you can use an oil-based paint or a latex house paint. Kind of the same rules there. The latex house paint cleans up easier, goes on a little easier, dries faster. It's a little less expensive. The oil-based paint waterproofs better, takes longer to dry, a little messier, a little more difficult to clean up, and costs a little more. Of course, to apply all of that, you'll need some paint brushes or rollers, basic things most people have around their house. And then you're going to need a few simple tools. Obviously, you're going to need pencil, tape measure, utility knife of some sort to cut the cardboard with, a straight edge to draw straight lines with and to cut along, and we'll show you examples of how we're going to do that here in just a little bit. A caulk gun to apply your caulk. Then we also usually have a receptacle of some sort to put water in and a sponge, and we'll show you how to do that too, and we use that when we're applying the paper tape. This is my favorite cardboard boat building tool right here. It's a power drill. You might think I'm crazy about that, but we actually use screws sometimes as a clamp to temporarily hold two surfaces of cardboard together. We'll put a little screw in there to hold it together, and then once the glue is dry, we'll take that screw back out. Keep in mind that when your boat's all done and it's ready to go, you can't have any screws or metal or anything like that in there. It's just got to be all corrugated cardboard, the paper tapes, caulk, polyurethane, paint. Jeff touched on it a little bit. There's two categories of boats. Actually, we have three categories of boat. Are we doing the build on site this year? Okay. Actually, we have three categories of boats. There's a Class 1 boat, which is an oar-powered boat. Can be anywhere from 1 to 10 people, and is powered by oars. We also have a Class 2 boat, which is a mechanical boat. The boat itself all has to be made out of cardboard. The structure of the boat has to all be cardboard, but it can have a propulsion system that's made of materials other than cardboard. It can have paddle wheels, a propeller. We've seen a whole different variety of different styles of paddle wheels on these boats. I think over the years, we've even had some folks try a sail. Wind's got to be just right. I wouldn't recommend that, but because you'd have to have the wind, of course. And then we've got a Class 3 boat, which is a build-on-site boat, which if you don't want to take the time and build a boat ahead of time, on the day of the race, you'll be issued all of the materials we were talked about here, with the exception of the paints and caulks, and you can build a boat on site. I think we're allowed 2 hours to build the boat. In that case, you are allowed to use duct tape, and you're given a sheet of plastic to wrap your boat in as kind of automatic or on-the-spot waterproofing. And we'll actually put those in the wave pool and race, and that's fun too. Everybody has a good time with that. But those are the three classes of boats that we have. And the mechanical boats are a lot of fun and Pretty neat to see some of the ingenuity that goes into those. And everybody has a good time with those. All right, now that we've kind of got an idea of the materials that we need, we're going to actually try to put a boat together here pretty quick. We're going to race through this.
Let me ask you questions while you set that up.
Okay.
All right. So I have a couple of questions because I have some stuff to give away. Where's the primary place that is available to you to buy supplies? Yes, ma'am. Westlake, Arlington. Very good. And here is a gift card that you can use at Westlake, Arlington. Very nice. All right. When you get a headache from building your boat, where do you go? Home? No, you might already be home. Do you have a different answer? Who said Randall Mill Pharmacy? You did. All right. Very good. All right. There's a nice large T-shirt for you. All right. Randall Mill Pharmacy. They have great stuff for headaches. All right. Who donates the cardboard to us to give you if you're a not-for-profit organization? Yes, sir. Nope. Who donates the cardboard? It might be a trick question. Bates Container, and that'll help you cut it up. What a cut up. All right. What is Gary Daly's favorite tool? I mean, for using to build boats? The power drill. All right. There you go. All right. That was a technical question. All right. And what supplies do you need to bring to Hurricane Harbor? You don't even know the question yet. What supplies do you need to bring to Hurricane Harbor to build on site? How about nothing? Build on site, you show up, you donate, and you get to build your own boat with the supplies that have been given to you. In fact, that was such a lame answer, I'm going to give you a paint stick too. All right, so now they are going to do an example of actually assembling some of the materials to make a boat. Right, guys?
Yes, sir. Before we get into that, we'll talk just a little bit more about design. We kind of talked about the materials here. You can see back here kind of a layout of a boat, and we're going to try to make this into a boat today in about 30 minutes with a little bit of luck. But before we get to that point where we're transferring our plan onto our cardboard, I usually start with a rough drawing. Looks something like that of how I want to lay my boat out. Then once I've done a rough drawing, if y'all can see this, I do a little more detailed drawing to scale of how I want my boat to look when I transfer it onto my big sheet of cardboard. I don't want to start on the big sheet of cardboard and make a mistake and have to come back and start over. So I lay it out here, and then I'll actually take this, which you can see is just a plain old piece of manila folder. This is great for making model boats. We'll take that and convert it into a model boat like this. Now what that does for you is it gives you an idea of how it folds and how all the tabs and flaps and all that come together when you're going to make your full-size boat. I can't stress enough how important it is, especially if you haven't built a boat before, is to make a scale model. You can use other materials. You can use just paper, but boy, manila folders works great because it kind of holds its shape a little bit. Paper's kind of flimsy, and that works really, really nice. You're all welcome to come up and look at these afterwards. Now, some of these big boats that Jeff had up on the diagram earlier, I think some of them were 13, 14, 15, 16 feet long. Well, our cardboard sheets that we have available to us is only 8 feet long. So what do we do? How do we do that? What we'll do is, if you will, just pretend this is a 4 by 8 foot sheet of cardboard. What we'll do is we'll take multiple sheets of that and splice it together to make one great big sheet that we can do something like that with. Now we'll give you a, let's go ahead and throw some glue on here, Bob. Okay. What we'll do is, normally I'll use a 4 to 6 inch overlap on each side when I'm splicing 4 by 8 sheets together. You can see Bob is what we call troweling a little glue on there. He's going to try not to get it on the mayor's carpet, and we'll all be in trouble. And if you would, keep in mind all of this is scaled down here for today. Just imagine this being about a 12-inch wide piece of cardboard, and we'll lay that across these seams. Go ahead and do that other side. And we'll just put a little pressure on that. And you'll be surprised at how quick this wood glue dries up on the and sets up on the cardboard. We're going to let this set for just a few minutes. We'll put a little. Where's Jeff take his weights? We're just going to put a little weight on here to hold that in place and let that set up for a second or two. The way that this glue works basically is it has water in it. You put it on two surfaces of the cardboard, and the cardboard actually wicks or draws the moisture out of the glue, leaving it, it becomes pastier and pastier as time goes on. But it doesn't take very long for that glue to set up and become firm. And we'll let that sit just another second or two. So anyway, then you've fabricated a giant sheet of cardboard. So now instead of a 4x8 sheet, you have an 8-foot by 16-foot sheet that you can fold in to make a boat 15 feet long. What we're going to do here today is show you some examples of the creases. There's several steps to fabricating a boat: measuring, marking, cutting, creasing, folding, gluing, clamping. We're going to show you a little bit of all of that with this, and then show you some little structural tricks to make your boat a little bit stronger. This is probably set up well enough here now already that we can take this weight off of there. And you can see that's stuck together pretty good already. And to make a giant sheet of cardboard that you can fashion a good-sized guppy or maybe even a small whaleboat out of obviously not this size, but if you think about it to scale, 8 foot wide and 16 foot long, you can make a good-sized guppy or whaleboat or a small whaleboat out of that. All right, now we're going to, if you will, we'll jump ahead here. And that little design we showed you on the manila folder, we have just transferred to this to a larger scale. And you can see a bunch of lines on here. We've made some lines, made our measurements, transferred it on here. The dashed lines are all areas where we want to make a crease or a fold. The solid lines, there's a few of them. We did a lot of the cuts already. But the solid lines is where we're just going to make a cut. I'm going to set this down here for just a second. You know what? Let's put this behind, Bob. I'm going to put this behind here for just a second. Now we're talking about creasing cardboard. How do we crease cardboard? Let's talk about cardboard a little bit before we do that. Cardboard has what we call flutes in it. I don't know if y'all can see the end of that, but that's kind of the waffle, the waffle up and down. But if you look at it this way, you can't see the waffle. So there's a grain, if you will, to the cardboard. In this case, the grain runs this way. Okay? You can almost take a piece of cardboard like this and just bend it, and it'll follow that grain. But if you try to bend it this way, sometimes this is a small piece and it does it. Okay, but really the best way to do your creases or folds is have a small tool, something like this. This is just a little coping saw handle. I see a lot of people use a crescent wrench handle or anything with a smooth, rounded end you can use to crease your cardboard. Okay, so let's say we've done a measurement and we've got a line going across there and we want to crease it right along there. Losing my tools here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our straight edge. I'm going to draw a straight line instead of that crooked one I just drew. Okay, there's a nice straight line, and we want to crease along that line. We just use a straight edge. Take this coping saw handle, or like I said, a crescent wrench handle, or any variety of things with a round handle, and just gently, with increasing pressure, go back and forth across your line there. And what that does is it compresses the flutes. It crushes the flutes in the cardboard. And then you can just... and it'll pop right there. So you can see my crease went right on my line, right on the money. Now this is double ply. You saw me kind of fighting it there a little bit. It's a little harder to fold than the single ply cardboard. We'll do the same thing on a piece of single ply here. Got my straight line. I'm just going to go back and forth over it several times. There again, compressing those flutes in that cardboard. All right, now, boom. See that? It's right on the mark. So it's really pretty easy. It's not hard, but when you're taking your device, whatever you choose, back and forth across there, you don't want to push too hard. You want to go gently back and forth several times, because if you go hard all at once, y'all hear that? You can rip it, and that weakens your cardboard. Could create a source for a leak depending on where that seam ends up on your boat. So we try not to do that. Sometimes it happens, but that's a place that we can caulk or tape later if we need to. All right, now that we have kind of an idea how to crease our cardboard, here again we've transferred our plan onto here. We've got our dashed lines for folds, solid lines for cuts. And Bob and I are going to wrestle with this thing and try to put this together and make a small scale size boat. I think this is going to be about 7.5 feet long and about 12 inches wide and about 6 inches deep. It's too small for a person, but a little kid might almost fit in here, but not quite. But we're going to kind of go through this kind of fast and show you some of the techniques we use putting these things together. Go ahead. You know what that means? I'll use the T-square. We're going to just do some cuts, show you how we're doing our cuts. Here again, look at this guy. I mean, that's how fast that glue dries. It doesn't take long at all. That's already pretty set up pretty good. Okay, we've got, like I said, we've got some solid lines on here. We're going to do a few cuts on here. Go ahead, Bob. Bob's going to take off on that end, and I'm going to help him down here a little bit. I like to just use a regular utility knife. Works pretty good. Kids at school, be careful. Maybe get some of the teachers or parents to help you with these, because these things are really sharp and you can take a nick out of a finger in a hurry. No, that's... Oh, did you forget to crease that? Yeah, don't worry about it. But we use a metal straight edge of some sort. You can see Bob's got a 4-foot ruler there he's using. And he's just going to do a cut or two there. You can see these sections we've got on here where I've got them marked with an X. I don't know if y'all can see that. Those are just trash areas that we're going to throw away. That's just extra. And to keep things moving along, I'm not going to use a straight edge here. Don't tell Bob, because he has a fit when I do. But I've got steady hands like a surgeon when I'm cutting with this thing, so that's what I try to tell everybody anyway. Is he watching? Does he see I'm not using a straight edge? I hope not.
Is that double ply?
This is single ply cardboard here, and we use single ply just for this exercise because it's a little easier to work with and we can move a little faster so we don't keep you here all day. So you can see it's pretty easy to cut. Bob's still putzing along. See, I'm done because I didn't use a straight edge. And he doesn't believe me, but just about got that. Now we're going to start shaping this thing into something that looks like a boat. You ready? Now we've got a lot of these creases we creased ahead of time so you didn't have to watch us make all these creases. But like we're gonna make a crease right along this first dashed line here. And when we do that, a lot of times what you'll want to do if you're doing it with double ply cardboard, you'll want to lay something solid. It doesn't have to be a long straight edge like this. Sometimes like just a 1x4 piece of wood or something. You can lay on top of it and put some pressure down on it, and it'll allow you to make that crease nice and straight along that line. Now, as we fold this together, you'll notice we took this fold and went way past 90 degrees. We kind of folded it back to itself. And what that does is it gets the cardboard completely crushed in that seam, the flute's completely crushed, such that when we go to actually fold this together and shape it up like into the boat, we're not fighting against those seams. And we're going to do the same thing here. Fold it past 90 degrees. All right. So we've got...
How much harder is that with double ply?
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit?
Yeah, that's why you really need a straight edge. So now we've kind of got, this thing's coming up now, and what we're going to do eventually is we're going to bring this piece up right about like that, and this is going to be the wall of one side of our boat here. You can see we drew a red line in the middle here. That's not a cut or a crease, but that's a glue point, what we'll call a glue point, where this edge is going to come back to that point, and that's really is going to be the center line of our boat. And we're going to, in a minute, we're going to glue that down right about there. Now we're going to flip over to the other side here and do these other creases real quick. Same thing, we're going past 90 degrees there. Got one more here. All right, now we're going to, did you do your folds on the, okay. We're going to just do our creases on the bow and the stern of the boat here real quick. We've already kind of pre-creased this. So these are little short tabs. We'll call these tabs, and they fold pretty easy and pretty fast. Okay, we're ready to try to start putting this thing together now. First thing we're going to do, though, is this tab, this long tab here, like I showed you a second ago, is going to fold to this center line on the boat. We're going to do that on both sides. We've got another tab here that's going to come in from the other side to that red line. So we're going to trowel out some glue on here real quick. Now we're not going to go all the way to the edge. Let me show you. We're going to stop about 2 inches off of this line right here. We're going to put our glue from here to here, because this part is actually going to be hollow. That's the hollow part of the inside of our wall, the side of our boat. Now there's kind of a fine line on the application of your glue. Does that look like a fine line? How come it is when I say something funny nobody laughs, and then when I'm serious they do? I don't know. I don't get. Seriously though, you get too much glue and the cardboard can't absorb all the moisture and it takes forever to dry. You don't get enough glue and you don't get good adherence between the two surfaces. This is about right. Maybe a little light on this end, maybe. All right, pick up that glue. Okay, you can kind of have an idea there about how much glue we've put on there, and that's a good amount. I mean, a proper amount. So now what we're going to do, we can still see our red line. We're going to flip this guy up here, and we're going to kind of work that up to our red line and hold it. And then we're going to bring the other side in. Okay, you can see our boat's getting small in a hurry here. All right. Now we use masking tape a lot as a clamp or to hold things in place. You can see what we're going to do here in just a second. Bob's going to put a piece of... There's another roll over there. That's even better. I checked those. Yeah. No, here, let me do that. Bear with us just a second here. Mom, this is fine. Hold it. Yeah, just hold that. Okay, we're going to just do that across here in a couple spots just to kind of hold our sides in position. And then we're going to grab a couple of buckets of paint and just set them inside here as a weight. We use weights, a variety of heavy objects, as clamps. Because when you got two flat surfaces of cardboard like we do down inside of here against each other, there's no way to really put like a vice grip clamp or a wood clamp or anything on that. We usually bring some wood clamps with us. I forgot today. But this weight will hold those two surfaces together. Now we're going to, we've got this end of the boat, and we're going to, well, let's see, I want to,
We had to fold out the top before we put these in.
yeah. Now this is something we do a lot of times too, is we'll, before we actually glue something, when there's a bunch of pieces coming, a bunch of parts and tabs coming together at one spot, we'll do what we call just a dry fit. We'll fold it together, see how everything's going to fit before we put our glue on it and see if we need to make any adjustments. Well, you can see right here, these two tabs, you know, yeah. These two tabs here that I've left in place so we can put a top on our boat, a cap on here, they're running into each other. I've got those, I don't want them to overlap because I want them to fit smoothly under there. So we need to kind of taper this off here. So that's why we do a dry fit sometimes. If our design isn't just perfect, we can make an adjustment on the fly. Okay, now I'm going to kind of dry fit that back together again. Okay, you can see how that comes together real nice in the front. Now I put these down. I need to take just another little snippet off of there. Okay, I don't know if y'all can see that, but now we've got a smooth surface here without these overlapping, that when our next step, or one of our steps here in a little bit, we'll put a top on here. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing on the back side here real quick. Just kind of do a dry fit again. I know some of this is repetitive, but we like to let you see that you know what a boat looks like when you start and how to get to the finish. Okay, and that one's going together, and I got the same problem up here, so I need to kind of trim these pieces back a little bit. Okay, we just trim that out of the way. Okay, now it fits together pretty good there. Thinking that we're probably pretty close to dry in here, believe it or not, with those paint cans sitting on there for a second. I think we can take those out of there, don't you, Bobby? Okay, so it's starting to look a little more like a boat. At this point, you know, if Bob, you'll pick up that end, it's starting to get sturdy because of the walls, but it's still a little flimsy. Each step of your boat as you go, it'll get stronger and stronger. And one of the keys to adding strength to your boat, which we'll do here in just a little bit, is we always install a bulkhead. Well, what's a bulkhead? A bulkhead is a wall or a divider in your boat, We're going to put a bulkhead in the front and in the back, and then also in the middle. This is going to be just a wall, and we're going to put it in the middle of this boat, and you'll see how much strength these bulkheads add as we go. And like I said, you can see it's still kind of floppy and flimsy and pretty easy to move around. We're going to glue up the front and the back of this thing here. Here again, we're going to use some masking tape as a clamp, if you will, to hold this together.
Some screws here.
Yeah, we might do that too. I'm going to flip it up real quick. Here again, kind of get that proper amount of glue on there, not too much, not too little. You want to get a good edge of glue right along your edge where you want to seal your water out. I'm going to do this other side here real quick. And we're not going to get real fancy with all of the perfect troweling of the glue here so we can keep moving along all right. All right, he's got that. Now these two tabs, this tab here and this tab back here, they're going to fold inside and stick to each other. So we're going to just put glue on one of those surfaces here. If you remember, just a second ago, we did a dry fit to make sure everything was going to fit together smooth, so we already know it's going to go in there good. All right, we're going to, that's where we need the clamp. Now here's, normally I would take a little pinch clamp and put in here, and I just ran off without them this morning. But I think this might be a good opportunity to use a screw. And I use a real, you don't need a very long screw usually, but something with a very coarse thread on it, because you use a real fine thread, it'll just pull through the cardboard. And when you put it in, you just gently pull it together. You don't want to crank it down because it'll strip out and then it won't hold at all. I'm going to put another one down here at the bottom. Okay, now here's a place where I'd use masking tape again as a clamp. We've got this seam right along here that we've glued together, and you can see it's kind of trying to lift up there a little bit. All you got to do, put a little masking tape on there and pull it together. And do that in 2 or 3 places. And while I'm doing this, Bob is going to start gluing the back of it together. Can you glue those flaps there? Same thing here. I got a little slack in that, so I'm going to just pull that together with some tape. As long as it's pulling together and you get it up there tight, you don't need to do it all the way along there. You can just do it every 3 or 4 or 5 inches. All right, I'll come down here and help Robert with this. He's about ready to go down here, it looks like. I'll slide it back on the table. All right, here again, we've dry fit this, so it should go together pretty smooth. Let's flip it up this way. We're going to get that tab in there. Okay, and I'm going to shoot a screw in there again. Now keep in mind, we're using these screws temporarily just to hold the cardboard together while the glue dries, and then we'll take them out and then we'll patch the holes. Okay, now we're going to flip it up. And can y'all see that, how that's kind of trying to lift up there a little bit? We just want to pull that down with the masking tape. I'm just going to put one piece on here because I think that'll hold this little boat pretty good. Now here you can see, Ella, we'll flip this back over. Yeah, the damn towel. You can see we've got some excess. You can see we've got some excess glue on there. It's real easy to wipe off when it's wet. We always like to do that because it makes when you paint your boat, that glue shows through. Just take a damp towel, not real wet, just just moist, and it wipes off very nice, and makes the finish on your boat nicer. Okay, we got the bow and the stern clamped up, glued up. Now we're going to pick this up, and we're going to check the strength and the stability of this little boat again. It's still a little wobbly, but it's getting a little better. It's getting a little better. Now we're going to put in our bulkheads. Okay, bulkhead is just a fancy word for a boat wall. We're going to put one in the front and one in the back of this boat. And we've made little tabs to glue to the floor and to the sides of the boat. These tabs right here. These are going to glue to each side, this one to the bottom, and then ultimately this one we're going to put a cover on here, and it's going to glue to that surface here. So just those three. Bob's going to put that one in and keep losing my glue. And I'll put this one in the back in. Is Bob looking? Don't tell him I'm not trialing this out. So we've got some we might need to release our tape to let this open up a little bit so it'll fit in there. And I'm gonna now inside this wall. Let me turn this around, Bob. Right there. I've got a little flap right in here that will stick to this surface here, so I'm going to put a little glue on there too. And just so we can keep moving along, I'm not going to trowel that out. We're just going to slide that guy right down in there. There again, that tab is going to the floor of the boat. Now I'm going to use this masking tape to pull it back together to get it in there good and snug. Bob's making some adjustments on the tabs there. Now, while that's drying a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and install the middle bulkhead. And it's amazing how much strength the center bulkhead or center wall makes. Now, we cut that guy out. He's going to fold up like this. These tabs here are going to stick to the wall of the boat. This tab here is going to stick to the floor of the boat. And these little tabs here are going to stick to the side of the boat. Again, I'm going to dry fit this and see if it'll fit in there. I may have pulled this in a little too tight. A little bit of luck, this will fit. Okay, that's going to fit in there something like that. We're going to glue that to the floor and the wall. Here again, just putting glue on all our little tabs here. I'm going to lay this out in front. And we'll glue these tabs real quick. All right, we got him all glued up. We're going to stick him in there. Now, I'm going to make a mess with glue everywhere here, but remember, we can just use a damp towel and clean up that excess glue. Yeah, just let's clean him up. Keep this dry here so we can put some, well, don't keep it dry then, so I can get the tape to stick. All right, we'll clean it up a little bit. Let's get some tape on. Let me see that. All right, we're going to stretch some tape across there to hold that bulkhead in place. Go all the way over because you're... I got it. Okay, we want to pull this good and tight so our tabs fit good to the wall. They're starting to stick already. Okay, kind of see what that looks like with the bulkhead down in there now. We got a little excess glue. We're going to clean that up a little bit. All right, so now if we take this guy now, you can see, I mean, it's really getting sturdy. He's getting stiff. Now, the only thing we lack before we start taping and sealing is we're going to put a little bow cap and a stern cap on there. And we're just going to trace that. We're just going to trace that to our stern. Okay, he just traced that on there. We're just going to cut that guy out and slap him on there. I'm going to get another piece here real quick and we'll do the back. Some of this cardboard's kind of gotten a little beat up, but I just rough cut that. We just need a piece that's close to the size. We're going to lay that on there, and here again, just trace around him. It's kind of hard to see, but we just traced around our bow cap on there, and I'm going to take these screws out now while Bob's doing that, because I think it's dry enough that it'll hold together. There again, you just gently take them out, and that's going to leave a couple of holes, which is a problem, but we're going to show you how to address that problem. I think these front and rear bulkheads are dry enough in there that it's going to hold together okay, so I'm going to pull this tape off of there. You about ready to stick that on there, Robert? All right. Yeah. Trim that when you're done. All right, we're going to put just a little glue on these tabs. In view of time, we're not going to trowel that all out. Or maybe we are. I forgot who I was working with here.
It's all about perfection.
All right. Now, same thing here. We're going to use masking tape to hold this guy on there. We can put some weight on there, too, to kind of hold it in place. And then that works really good. We'll just put a piece of tape. A couple of places to hold it together. I'm going to cut that back one out. Okay, while Bob's working on that back bow cap, I'm going to address these screw holes that we talked about. There's several different ways you can fix, and not just a screw hole, any hole that gets in your cardboard, because even if you're super careful and not set it down on rocks or set it down on a screwdriver when you're working on it, invariably you're going to get a little hole in there. Really, all you need to do is cover that hole with a piece of tape. You can use a piece of masking tape. Just cover your hole like that. We have before, I don't really think it's necessary, you can use a little spot of caulk, put a little spot of caulk in your hole, and then cover it with tape. Really, the tape does the job. And really, that's all you need to do is repair a hole. Here again, you can use this masking tape. You can use the self-adhesive packing paper tape, or we're going to show you the wettable packing tape here in just a minute. Now, we've got several different types of, I shouldn't say several, really two different types of seams that you have on a cardboard boat. You've got these where you have the flutes exposed. Remember we talked about flutes a little while ago, where the flutes exposed? Those really need to be covered with tape. It's difficult to get enough caulk into all of those flutes to properly seal that kind of a joint. And we might not be doing any caulking. There we go. The other type of seam we have, you turn this around to the front, can we, Bob? In the front here, we've got this little seam right here where those two pieces of cardboard folded together like this, if you will. That's the type of seam I like to just protect with caulk. And I'll just put a little bead of caulk down there. Here again, I like to use this latex silicone combination caulk. It's less expensive, dries faster. Okay, I got kind of a choppy line there, but that's okay because I always take my finger. I just take my finger and smooth it into the joint, force it down in there. And now you've got a nice watertight seal down in there. That's how we like to deal with those types of seams. Now a seam like this over here where we've got the flutes of the cardboard exposed, I like to use tape on those. I'll show you an example of that real quick here. I'm just going to use a little piece of this self-adhesive paper tape. We'll take this masking tape off. As you can see right along here, we've got these exposed flutes, and like I said a second ago, you'll never get enough caulk in there to properly seal that, to keep the water out. And you got to keep the water out of your boat. But you can just use this tape like this, fold it over the seam, smooth it out, and you've got a nice watertight seal along here now. Obviously, I didn't go the full length. The disadvantage to masking tape and this self-adhesive tape is sometimes out in the sun on race day with your paint on here, that adhesive underneath all of your paint and your polyurethane and stuff, sometimes that adhesive gets a little soft and slippery and your tape will actually slip or slide, or if there's any stress on your boat, it'll pull apart. That's why I like to really use this paper packing tape. Our friends at Westlake Arlington Hardware stock this. I think a giant roll like that, I think is about $8, and it lasts forever if you take care of it. And what do you mean take care of it? What do you mean take care of tape? Happens every year. We're busy working on our boats. We set our roll of tape down on the floor. Guess where we sat it? In a puddle of water. It's ruined after that because that gets up in there and the tape all sticks to itself. You can't use it. So I can't stress enough, if you buy this, how many rolls have we ruined, Bob?
Too many.
Yeah. It's super important not to set that down in a puddle of water. But I'll show you how easy this stuff is to work with. We'll just flip it around and do a little repair or a little work on this. Here again, we've got a seam with these exposed flutes. I've got a bucket of water here. You just take your tape, dunk it in the water, hold it up, shake the excess off, lay it across your seam, kind of smooth it out with my fingers, and then I'll take a damp towel or sponge and wipe away the excess water. And that, in about 15 minutes, the water all evaporates and all is dry, and this makes a tremendous cover for these exposed flutes. All right, now we're not going to bore you with going around and taping and caulking and sealing this whole boat up. Oh, Bob's pointed out we got another hole right there, so we can do the same thing. Here's how easy it is to fix a hole. We did it with the masking tape. We can use this same kind of tape. Put it on there. Smooth it out. We've repaired that hole. We're done. We're done fixing that hole. Now you've kind of got your boat built, constructed, waterproofed. You know, any place you've got these exposed flutes, like down in here where we've got this bulkhead, you'll want to tape these seams. This is the type of seam you want to tape. This type of seam right here where it, what I say, knuckles together, it comes together like that, where you don't have any exposed flutes, you want to use caulk down that seam. Now, what we do in addition, we're not going to do it here today, but normally we would put a solid piece of floorboard in there to cover any of these seams down in here. Plus, to make the bottom of our boat a little thicker and a little stronger, we like to do that. But you've got it to the point now, if you would bear with me, let's assume we've caulked and taped all our seams and we've got it sealed up good. Now it's time to really start waterproofing it. Okay, then what we would do is put our polyurethane on there. Again, you got water-based or oil-based polyurethane. You can use either one. We talked about the advantages and disadvantages. I'd normally recommend about at least 3 coats. 4 coats is great. The oil-based, you definitely need to lightly sand it between coats. It takes, depending on the weather, 4, 5, 6 to 10 hours, depending on the weather and humidity for that oil-based polyurethane to dry. First coat you can put on. Second coat, the first coat soaks in really fast. The second coat you can come back and put on without sanding. The third and fourth coats you want to sand between coats. But there again, you want to sand it just really lightly and with a fairly fine sandpaper, like a 220 probably, or 220 grit sandpaper, and you want to be real careful on edges. When you're sanding the edges, you don't want to sand completely through the polyurethane that you've just put on there, because then you'll lose some waterproofing on the edges. And then after you've gotten 3 or 4 coats of the polyurethane on there, then you can come back and apply your color. There again, you can use water-based or oil-based. Oil-based is more waterproof than the water-based paints. But if you've got oil-based polyurethane on here, 3 or 4 coats, you're fine with a latex paint that's a water-based paint to add the color to your boat. And then there's endless creativity we see on race day with designs and themes and other things that people add to their boats, and that's what really makes it fun. This part's boring. This is boring, but when people start putting paint jobs and themes and slogans and all of the different things that the school kids and the different companies and stuff come up with is really what makes it fun. So put a lot of thought into that, and we just love seeing the creativity that we see out there on race day. Yes, ma'am?
And you spray paint your designs on the boat?
Absolutely. Yep, spray paint's fine. Yep. Yes, ma'am?
Are you allowed to use a primer, or is that even suggested?
I never have. I don't think it's necessary. The polyurethane works as a sealer and a primer, really, and the colored paints stick fine to it, in my experience. I'm not a professional painter, but been doing it for 15 years, and it works pretty good like that. But anyway, I want everybody to feel free to come up and look at this. And then also we've got over here kind of a cross-section of a little different style boat that's about 3/4 built. And please come up and take a look at this too. This one is a little different design. You can see it's got a V-bottom, a little more complicated design, a little more difficult to build. And you can see down in the floor we put ribs to support this floorboard in there. This is a good example, and this has a good bow or a good prow on it that cuts through the water pretty good. This design's not bad. This design's not bad. This is better. And the V-holes, sit down in the water a little bit. Can't stress enough, Jeff already talked about it. When you do your calculations, make sure and do all your calculations to where you know how deep in the water your boat's going to sit. Because if you're sitting up too high in the water, it's going to tend to want to tip over sometimes if your center of gravity, if your crew is up too high. You sit down too low in the water, you got water coming over the edge of your boats. You get the side of your boat too tall, you can't reach the water to row. So keep all of those things in mind when you do your calculations. And what you have to do is you have to take your design of your boat and figure out how many cubic feet are going to be in your boat. Figure out what your boat and your crew is going to weigh to figure out how far it sits down in the water. And those calculations are all in your handout there. But Can't stress enough the importance of going over those calculations before you start. Do a model scale drawing on a manila folder. Fold up your boat with a manila folder and say, okay, this is what I want it to look like. And then you come on to these steps right here. And I'm going to wrap it up with that, and I'll be glad to stay after a few minutes and answer some questions, and I think we'll leave it at that.
Leave your mic on for a second. Let's give a hand to both Gary Daly and Bob Sherwood. Obviously a wealth of knowledge here. Gary, give us a feel for the timeline that these folks ought to be considering. I mean, it's April 28th is when they've got to be sea ready. When should they start, or what's the closest to ship date?
How many have started on their boat already? Ah, you're too late then. No. If it's your first time, you know, obviously allow more time. I mean, you can see we put this, Bob and I drew this out on that big sheet of cardboard in about an hour this morning. And we slapped this little guy together here in about, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it was. But the bigger the boat, the more time it takes. And the less experience you've got at it, the more time it takes. You know, if you want to make a big whale-class boat, I would really start at least a month ahead, to be honest with you, because you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to have to go back and do some things over. You know, a guppy boat, if you want it to turn out good, you know, I'd start, you know, at least 2 or 3 weeks ahead. And I say that, it doesn't take that long to build the boat unless you're building something really elaborate. But what takes time is the drying of the paint between layers. You know, if you're putting several coats of polyurethane and several coats of paint on there, maybe you get 1 coat of paint on a day. Well, you need 4, 5, 6 layers on there. It takes a week to paint it properly. But, you know, we have people that paint them 2 days ahead of time with latex house paint, and that works too. But I do want to stress that please paint your boats plenty ahead of time, that when we go out to Hurricane Harbor, we don't leave paint all over the facility out there. They've been gracious hosts for many, many years, and they love to do it, and we love doing it there. But we don't want to leave any remnants of our activities on their facilities. In other words, we don't want red and purple paint all over their place that they've got to try to clean up. So
good. All right, we've got a couple more topics. Thank you, Gary. Once again, let's give a hand to Bob and Gary. If this, you know, I'm not a real handy person, and if this is overwhelming to you, you know, where do you get the supplies? What supplies do you need? So forth, so on. You have a couple of options at least. One is go buy a refrigerator and use the box from that. We've seen it. We have seen that, a refrigerator box painted. But a lot cheaper than that, River Legacy has kits available. And that helps us raise some funds as well. Bates gives us the cardboard, and we have a kit for $125, and you can consider that as an option for at least these supplies for $125, and that's enough cardboard, etc., to help you make a youth dolphin or an adult guppy. So if those are the sizes you're considering, those kits are available, and there's some information out there. And what you do is you place the order, and we'd assemble it and have you come over to the River Legacy Science Center to pick that up. So anyway, all right, I need to double, yeah, okay. I need to know, here's your first question, and it goes with a tape measure. Give me the name of the kind of animal, the name and animal that's on glue. Yes, sir. Name. Yes, sir. Elmers. All right. All right. Next question. Finish the sentence. Past 90%. Past 90%. Remember that term? Past 90%. You got an idea? All right. And what's the other one? All right. I'll fill that one in. The temperature we're hoping for on April 28th. Sorry. You can see I don't like cold water. All right. All right, so here's another question, and it's a gift card that I'm going to give away. And this part over here, you've been very deficient in your answers. Where would you go to read about progress or events relative to the river, to the regatta. Yes, ma'am.
The River Legacy newsletter or website.
Or one of our sponsors. Oh, very good. One more? Yes, ma'am. All right. The Star Telegram, our sponsor. All right. All right, let's see. This is a little abstract, so I'm going to have this adult-type gift. The answer needs to be an adult. If you are sitting on the bulkhead, where do you put your luggage?
In the back.
In the back. All right, just because you offered, you get a paint stick. All right, cardboard bulkhead or a boat wall, it adds what to a boat? Stability and strength. Who said strength over there? She did? All right. There you go. All right, so remember the kits for $125 are available, and those will give you all of the parts. Our next presenter is Sue Wilhide, and she's going to talk about design ideas. And let me ask a quick question to the audience. We've got obviously a lot of young people here. How many people here are either with a school or a school class or something like that? Very good. And that's exactly one of the main things that we're excited about, because the skill set that you learn by doing this goes into all kinds of neat things. And Sue's going to embellish that.
Well, I'm at the end, so that means I have to talk fast, and I will. I'll talk very fast. I am Sue Wilhide. I teach at Pope Elementary. This will be my 14th cardboard boat this year. So, and I haven't always done it with my class. I actually started doing this with my own children, and then when I started teaching in Arlington, I started building one with my class every year since. So it's a great, great project. And I know the number one thing that raise your hand if you're here with some kind of children's group or a teacher. Okay, most of us. Most of us are here because we want to build this with kids, and I think it's the greatest thing, one of the greatest things you can do. I know right now we all think, when are we going to have time? Where are we going to find the money? Where are we going to do it? How are we going to pull it off? But it really is doable if you feel it's an important thing. And I just do feel that it's a really important thing that we give our kids an opportunity to apply what we are teaching them. I think it doesn't make sense. We all know that. It doesn't make sense unless you're actually doing it. And every single measurement math tech that we teach, whether you're in 3rd grade or whether you're in 12th grade, you would apply to building this boat. Depending on the level of your kids, how much you get to do with them, that's up to you as far as how much of the planning they actually do. I know I teach 5th grade. I usually draw up the plan just because of time purposes, and they do everything except for cutting. I don't allow them to use the knives. I just think it's too dangerous. So they do all the drawing of the lines, they do all of the measuring, they do all of the scoring, they do everything. So even a 5th grader who's usually 9 or 10 years old can do this. It's all science too, buoyancy, mass, weight, volume, all of those things that we talk about, you're teaching them. So, I mean, it is your text, and now they're applying all the things you're learning in class, and they'll remember it. And I know that this, if you're an AISD teacher, you're here maybe to get GT credit today, but to me, this project is not a GT project only. This is a project for everybody, because everybody's going to go out someday and have to build something or measure something or do some kind of project. And a lot of our kids are going to go out and that's what they're going to do for a living. I mean, this is what a lot of our kids are going to do this for a living. They're going to be in construction, or they're going to be working in a field where they have to be able to measure, and they have to be able to use common sense and work together as a group, and that's exactly what this does. So it builds a lot of teamwork. It builds relationships with your kids. It builds relationships with your parents, because you're seeing so much of them for about a month. And I start right after spring break. I start right after spring break, and we work on Saturdays because that's really the only time I have to do it. A lot of us are tutoring after school, and also it takes up so much space in whatever room you decide to do it in that until it's all folded up and in a boat, you know, that room is off limits to anybody else in your building. So if we do it on a Saturday, usually that first Saturday, we can get to a point where it's to this point right here, you know, and then you can pick it up and move it over against a wall or something, and people can still use that room. So I do about 3 whole Saturdays of putting it together, and then the painting, we'll usually do that after school because it's, you know, you put on a coat of paint and then you leave. So, it's really great. Where do you get money? If you're a teacher, there's lots of places, you know. We have first of all, the cardboard that we get donated. That's a big part of the expense of this, so that's really nice to make sure your name gets on that list out there for Bates Container. 5 sheets of cardboard is enough to build a whale boat. And I wouldn't start with the whale boat if this is your first year, just because it is a big project. It's a big project. It takes a lot of time, and I would start small and get as many kids involved as you can, and then keep doing it every year and getting bigger and bigger. I think sometimes it can be overwhelming. My first year, I did build a whale boat. It took me 4 times as long as I thought it was going to take me, and I showed up at the regatta, and Jeff Williams was there unloading boats, and he looked at my boat and just started laughing at me because it was so heavy that I had to have adults help me get it off the trailer. I mean, it was just huge, and I swear I could have taken that thing down the Mississippi River. I mean, it was so overbuilt that it was just crazy, but it was great. And so PTA, if you have a PTA, I've written project requests to them for money. I send home a list to my parents of things we need, and maybe a parent will bring me a gallon of glue, and maybe another parent will bring me some sponges, and we have a dad's club that will sometimes donate some things. So usually I can get pretty much everything donated by the time it's all over. Rollover money, I've never used that, but somebody mentioned that they had somebody. There's several teachers in Arlington that build boats every year, and so somebody had mentioned that to me. Corporate sponsors, if you have a parent, I've had parents in the past who their companies have offered to fund the boat for us, and they haven't even asked me to put their name on the boat. They've just offered to do it because they felt like it was a worthwhile project. Finding a place to build the boat, that's a challenge sometimes. We build ours in our science lab, and like I said, I do it on a Saturday so that usually we lay out and do all this part on Friday after school. The weekend we start it, we get this done Friday night, and then we come in Saturday morning and we get it to a point where it's folded so we can move it over to the side, put it up on a table or something, and then we can just, then it's still usable for the rest of the building. Again, like Jeff said, make sure you can get it out the door of wherever you are building it. Don't build it too long that you cannot get it out the door. I've had that happen before. It's not a fun problem to try to solve after you've got paint on it and everything, that you're going to have to figure out how to cut that down. In the past, I've had parents when I was at a different school, we had parents that lived right there in the neighborhood that just happened to have a lot of kids that kept coming through my class, and they always offered their garage, and we did that a couple years in a row. That was great. It was a nice open spot. Just make sure the floor, like Gary said, no rocks. You sweep the floor really good. Even if it's in your science lab, sweep the floor really well, because there's sand. We have sand and soil and things that we work with in the lab, and when that gets on the bottom of your boat, it just puts all these little holes in the bottom of your boat. And that was last year's boat, and that was our paw and antler boat, and we always try to come up with a theme. I have a classroom theme every year, and last year it was about teams, and so they picked the Rangers instead of the claw and antler. That we went with the paw and antler, and we had some removable antlers that were on the front of the boat and a paw coming up off the back of the boat. That's the other thing. You can put little extra things on it that you can either take off or keep on. I've had a covered wagon theme one year where we actually had the boat covered with a wagon. It looked like a covered wagon. We've had a pirate boat where we had a black sail that was removable, like it was just there for the judges and we could take it down. And that is the really fun part. They get to plan, and we come up with our costume, we come up with our music, we come up with whatever. When Jay comes around to judge, he always has to stand there and listen to our song and our dance or whatever they came up with that year. And really, I always stress to him, this part of it, the rowing part of it, it's fun, but the most fun is really just being there that day and watching the thing that you've spent all this time building get in the water and actually go, because I think it takes a long time to convince them that it's actually going to float. Yes, exactly. I mean, that's really the best part. So I get a lot of questions. I've gotten a lot of emails already because this year about how do I manage it. And really what I do is like next week, in the next week or so, I'll send home a letter with all the dates and times I'm planning on working on the boat. And then the kids bring it back and their parents check the dates they're available to work. And then I make up a schedule, like a work schedule, and I send home another little note that says these are the days I've scheduled you to work, because I try to keep it under 10 kids, because I think more than 10 kids, it just turns into, not everybody has something to do. It kind of gets chaotic. The yardsticks become swords, and it's just a lot of things start happening, so it's really good, depending on the age of your kids, not to have too many at once. And then if they show up for work, and they work their time, they get a ticket, and I put it in a little bin, and at the end, when we get closer to the date, I draw, and those are my rowers. That's how I choose the rowers, and that's because I couldn't think of a more fair way to do it than that way. So I try to make sure they all get to work on the boat at least 3 times, 3 days, or 3 work sessions. But Patty Harden couldn't be here today. She left the sign-up sheet, the teacher sign-in, it's out there now. So if you're here because you're here for credit, you need to make sure that you go out there when you leave and sign that sheet. And also the free cardboard donation sheet is out there, so you need to make sure you sign up for that. If you're building a boat and you want some free cardboard, that's for any nonprofit group. It's not just for teachers. So if you're a scout troop or a Girl Scout troop or church group, I think as long as you're nonprofit, you can sign up out there for the free cardboard. And like I said, five sheets of cardboard. If you're building a guppy, that's more than enough. And if you're or a dolphin, that's more than enough. And usually enough for a small whale boat for an elementary school student. So I'll be staying after a little while. So if you have any questions, I'll be here. So I'm going to keep it moving.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Would you give your mic to her, please?
I will.
All right, a couple questions for you. And she kind of just mentioned it, but where can nonprofits get cardboard for their boat? I'm going to go back over here. Yes, sir. Yeah. Now, that's false raising of hand without an answer. The Navy guy. River Legacy has not-for-profit, has cardboard for not-for-profits. If you'd hand that to them. Thank you. Where can you go to get supplies? Who's kind of our favorite place to go to supplies? West Lakes. And here's a gift card for you for West Lakes. Would you hand that down to there, please? All right. And proceeds of our event go to whom? Back row. Very good. And what school is there? Very good. And you have a backpack. All right. All right, we have one more presentation. We have one more presentation today, and that's going to be Darla Reynolds. And she's going to talk about another event that goes on at Hurricane Harbor.
All right. I need 2 volunteers, FB Youth, 11 and under. Pinks, come here. Pink, come here. You right here, come here. All right, what you two are going to do is you're going to carry around and you're going to showcase this. You get to be a model, okay? Can you do that? All right, there you go. They're going to walk around and show you the 2 mini boat options. There you go. Just put it in your hands and just, if you want to look at it, you may. Just don't open the boxes yet because we're using them as door prizes afterwards. The mini boat regatta is something we instituted a few years ago, and it's for the kids who do not have the opportunity to build one of the bigger boats. Hang on just a second, I forgot I had something. This is what one of the boats will look like. This is the mini boat. The other flatter kit is the catamaran. It's a new division this year. We have 4 divisions for the mini boat regatta, which is this one. There's 4 divisions, and they're all divided by ages. And there will be trophies presented in each age category, 1st through 3rd place. And there will be an overall fastest winner trophy given to the young man or woman who has the fastest overall time. And the catamaran, which is the flat box, it's 1 division. Kids ages 6 to 12 will compete together. It's a much faster race. And how they compete is we put the boats into, we don't have it here, I'm sorry, is my fault, is the cargo boat is the rain gutters. The rain gutters have the ends taped off or welded together. We put water inside the rain gutters, and that's how they sell the boats. It's fairly simple, very easy. It's a lot of fun. The catamaran, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd place winners will also receive trophies, and the overall fastest time will receive a trophy also. Now see the boats? If you want to look at the little boats afterwards, you may. The kits can only be purchased at the Boy Scout office. Those are the only kits that are allowed to race in this competition. On Saturday, there are some flyers out there about the mini boat regatta. The information that you need is on there. It is $5 per entry, not per kid. If you want to do both divisions, it's $5 per entry. And there is a discount for admissions if you get your information in to Christy before a certain deadline, which I haven't really looked at yet. I just got here, sorry. I had another presentation at 10 o'clock this morning in Fort Worth. The other thing is we're also going to have the registration for the mini boat regatta will be in the children's area, which is in Hooks Lagoon. So 9:30 to 11:30 is your registration. Our boat races begin at noon. The first race will be the catamaran races first, and then we'll do the mini boats. Also, at that day, we'll also have door prizes, 3 door prizes, but you have to be present to win. And those door prizes, drawing will take place at 2 p.m. So right now, at this point, any questions about the mini boat? Yes, ma'am.
Can we make copies of this for students?
Yes, you may. It's 1 per participant, please. Any other questions? All right, I tried to get through that fairly quickly. All the information you really need is on this green sheet. If you do have any more questions or concerns, just please call or email me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. So now, back to Jay.
Okay, thank you, Darla. I'm on. As a thank you to our 2 young participants, you may keep your kits. You may keep those. Thank you very much for so diligently showing those around. Very nice of you. Technical note is that if you picked up cardboard last year, if you got donated cardboard to your school or church or whatever last year, don't go to the same place. It's going to be in a different place. It's on that instruction sheet. So one of the things that you have in your packet, if I may take that, is your survey. So if you don't fill out a survey, what will you need to do? Anybody have an idea? Raise a hand. Somebody raise a hand. All right. You need to throw in the towel if you don't fill in a survey. All right. And one other thing is that if you don't, if there's another piece of paper that you need to fill in to participate, and what might that piece of paper be? Registration form, because if you don't fill it in, you can't cut it. All right? And the last thing is, I wanted to make sure that all of you know that we really appreciate you being here. And once again, when is the regatta? April 28th. That measures up. All right. Everybody, thank you very much for participating in our 23rd annual coming up on April 28th. And thank you for participating in Boat Building School.
Well, it is our 21st annual Cardboard Boat Regatta. We have more than 145 boats here that were created completely out of cardboard, and some of these are just so creative it's not even funny. And they are going to race them in Hurricane Harbor's wave pool.
Well, we're doing it at our school, and it just looked really fun.
It's a great community event. We have a lot of fun. Our group, we've got 14 boats sponsored out here this year and a tug-of-war team. We're here to raise money for the River Legacy Foundation, a great local community-based foundation that raises money, that does a lot of great things with our Parks and Recreation Department. They do wonderful things here in our community, and I'm tickled to be part of this for the 15th year and help raise some money for a very, very worthy cause.
School because my mom's a teacher and I just wanted something to do after school, so I chose this when the opportunity came.
We make boats for the kids and for the adults, and then we provide sheets for other companies for them to make boats as well, just so everybody has a good time. Just for the kids' experience, because they get excited, they look forward to it, like, you know, when's it gonna happen?
It takes some engineering, it takes some creativity, and it takes knowing, you know, math, science, and things like that. So it's wonderful for the community. It's a great learning lesson, and then it's just a lot of fun to build a boat out of cardboard and then play with it in the water.